News Talk 610 AM and 102.1 FM. KVNU.
It's hot and sunny Monday afternoon. I'm Will Feelright with your KVNU local headlines. Well, leaders of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints toured completed portions of Salt Lake Temple on Friday, marking a significant milestone in the historic building's multi-year renovation. Now, Church President Dallin H. Oaks, currently recovering from hip replacement surgery, was joined by counselors Henry B. Eyring and D. Todd Christofferson to inspect the progress. Now, the extensive project aims to preserve the pioneer-era structure, which the faith considers a sacred house of the Lord. Now, Oaks said the opportunity to tour the temple was a welcome chance for him to be with his brothers in the First Presidency in a place that they cherish. Now, while the temple remains closed ahead of a planned celebration next year, a new Temple Square Visitor Center will open next week. Now, the center will offer an inside a temple experience to teach the public about the building's religious significance. Additional tour reservations, meanwhile, will be released beginning in June. Well, Utah Supreme Court Justice Diana Hagan has resigned following resurfaced allegations of a conflict of interest tied to the state's redistricting case. Now, the controversy centers on her connection to David Raymond, a former lead attorney who had argued that the Republican-drawn congressional maps were illegal. Now, Hagan denied any conflict, noting that she voluntarily recused herself in May of last year after reconnecting with Raymond. Now, the court defended her, stating that her involvement in the redistricting case had ended before the allegations, which were raised by her ex-husband, occurred. Now, although the Judicial Conduct Commission dismissed a formal complaint following an independent investigation, state leaders have still voiced their ongoing concern. Governor Spencer Cox issued a joint statement with legislative leaders and the Chief Justice pledging to reform the commission to maintain public confidence. Meanwhile, the governor, who thanked Hagan for her service, said the details on filling the court vacancy will be announced soon. Well, a man convicted of multiple counts of aggravated human smuggling has been sentenced to 5 years to life in prison, according to the Utah Attorney General's office. Miguel Angel Che Teguila was sentenced to 3 counts of aggravated human smuggling, which are first-degree felonies under Utah law. Now, the court had ordered the sentences to be served concurrently. The conviction all stems from a June 2025 traffic stop where law enforcement discovered Teguila was transporting 4 adults and 3 unoccupied minors, ages 15 and 16. Now, investigators later confirmed that the operation was for a commercial purpose, noting that the officers found more than $1,200 in cash on Teguila and several deactivated cell phones inside the vehicle. Now, he was convicted in February of this year. State officials highlighted that the case is part of an ongoing effort to crack down on commercial human smuggling operations involving vulnerable minors. Well, the CEO of the Utah-based company behind the Canvas learning platform is apologizing now for a recent data breach and the company's lack of communication during the crisis. Now, Instructure CEO Steve Daly issued a letter to users acknowledging the massive disruption which had been caused by last week's cyber attack. Now, Daly admitted that the company had gone quiet, focusing on fact-finding, but had failed to provide schools and students with necessary updates. Daly clarified that the breach exposed personal information, including usernames, email addresses, and direct messages, but he stressed that the core learning data, such as course content and credentials, was never compromised. Now, vulnerability tied to the platform's free-for-teacher accounts was exploited, prompting the company to temporarily disable that environment. Well, we've had hot temperatures today, and it looks like tomorrow's going to be even warmer as these sunny skies are going to bring temperatures into the low 90s tomorrow. That could break a record for us for tomorrow that goes back several decades. It looks like we'll continue to see high 80s for Wednesday as we look ahead through the rest of the week with mostly clear skies. Thursday and Friday, temperatures will get back into the 70s. And it's Mountain Valley Heating and Air that brings you our weather. They are looking for nominations to give away heating and air systems to families in need. Now, last year they gave away 5. This year they want to do 10. Nominations can be made at mountainvalleyhvac.com. And I'll have another check of local news coming up at the bottom of the hour as KVNU News Time is now 5:09. And more of KVNU's For the People show with Jason Williams is coming up next. I'm Will Feelright for KVNU News.
This is Matt Robbins with Quality First Insurance, and we are now Alera Group. This is great news for you. Now you have more choices and strength of a top national broker in your corner with our local personal service. Every situation is unique. Now we can tailor coverages from deductibles and limits to risk management, so it fits you even better. Let's compare options and tighten your program. Same friendly faces, same local office. Call 435-752-0101.
The newsmakers, the stories. Get it all here. News Talk KVNU 610 AM and 102.1 FM.
With the arrival of spring, Cash Stormwater Coalition wants to remind us all of 5 simple things we can do to improve our local water source. Pick up and dispose of pet waste. Sweep up and remove loose grass clippings or leaves from sidewalks and hard surfaces. Sweep fertilizers or other lawn chemicals back onto the grassy areas. Wash equipment or vehicles on the grass or at your favorite local professional car wash. And properly dispose of used automotive fluids or dry up and clean up any spills or leaks. We can all make a difference if we do our part. Brought to you by the Cash Stormwater Coalition.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People, hour 2 of today's show. It is still closer to 82 degrees at this point for the temperature, but it is May 11th. It's pretty warm out there. I'm enjoying it for now. I'm sure, this is going to be much scarier a month from now if the water doesn't come. But I'm just sticking my head in the sand about all of that and enjoying the very summer-like feeling out there today. So I drove around with the windows down this morning. Had to turn the AC on this afternoon. All right, there is a lot in the news today. We're going to move on from the data center for the time being, but I do want to point everyone to 2 referendum that have been submitted for approval in Box Elder County. We'll talk more about these after they're approved, but the short version of this is Box Elder residents have formed an organization that they're calling BEAR, B-E-A-R. Makes sense, Bear River, right? And the referendums are, for all intents and purposes, putting it on the ballot whether or not Box Elder residents want to, yank the rug out from underneath this whole AI data center thing. The governor's scrambling, trying to put a nicer face on this, saying that they're going to be much more inclusive of the public and transparent going forward, not coming out and actually condemning META for how they've done things so far. I think that would go a long way to settling people's nerves if someone like the governor said, hey, the state board should not be operating this way. Just basically acting as a lobbyist for the developer, fighting with the counties, and just kind of, bring the county leaders in way too late in the process. I think if the governor came out and said that, you'd get a lot more reception from the public, but, they never listen to me on PR advice. The BEAR effort, BEAR stands for Box Elder Accountability Referendum, and the group has now filed 2 applications to challenge the Box Elder County Commission's May 4th approval of the Stratus META data center, citing concerns about air quality, water access, general environmental impact, and on May 8th, they made it official. They filed the 2 applications May 8th, and this is for a referendum to undo Box Elder County Commissioner's vote to move ahead with this on May 4th, which, as Commissioner Lee Perry told us, it was a hold your nose and vote kind of situation for them. They didn't care for how META had treated the county either, and how negotiations had been going or not. And being brought in so late, they felt, Perry told us they felt kind of blindsided by this as much as the public did, by the state board that was working directly with the developer. So they voted on May 4th, Perry told us, to move ahead because they felt it was the only way to keep the county with a seat at the table. They felt that if the county commissioners said, we're not moving ahead with this, that Meta and the developer would have just kind of bypassed the county and done it anyway. So they felt like this allowed Box Elder County to have some say in how all this plays out from here. But it did officially start the ball rolling on it happening. So this group says, let's put it on the ballot. This 40,000 acres of land in unincorporated Box Elder County, just south of US 84, for those who aren't familiar with the valley that we always reference here. When fully completed, again, 9 gigawatts of power consumption and production at the same plant, basically a power plant within the data center that generates 3 times what Utah uses, gigawatt hour wise. So, I mean, that's going to contribute to emissions. There's a lot of people trying to downplay that. You just can't. But that's what the referendum cites specifically. So they put it on. They filed this application, and if the application is approved, then I'm assuming their goal is to get this on the November ballot. And I have no idea what the deadline is for that as well. Bear also argues in their filing that there has been too little public input regarding the data center. And Shannon Barton, who is one of the people who filed the actual application and makes up the Bear organization, said that she, as a sponsor of the referendum, said that no public comment was allowed at all on May 4th, which is true. I was there. I still think that was a PR mistake on their part too. But anyway, the Bear organization said if the data center is allowed to go through, an enormous negative impact will be seen in the region's air quality, temperatures, water access, land access, and more. And the 2 applications have been filed, one against Resolution 2611 and one against Resolution 2612. And there were 25 co-sponsors of this. So Brennan Williams, who was another supporter of the referendum, said the referendum is proof that residents are overwhelmingly opposed to the center and the lack of process behind all of this. We want no part of this development or its threat to our area. Williams also said that no matter what happens, we're not going to stop caring about protecting our community here in Box Elder County. Box Elder County themselves, elected officials and the county officially responded to the referendum in a statement telling ABC4 News that the next step, that they received the referendum application related to both of the resolutions approved Monday, May 4th, unanimously by the 3 county commissioners. And the county now has 20 days to review the application and follow the process that's defined by state law, actually, on a referendum request. And those requirements and procedures are outlined in Utah code on how a referendum works. And so if the application is approved, if they crossed all their I's, dotted all their I's, crossed all their T's in their application, then referendum does move forward. And now this doesn't necessarily mean the project itself will stop, but this would basically pull back, null and void the consent and agreement approved by the Box Elder County Commissioners on May 4th, which again, Commissioner Lee Perry told us they felt that was the only way to keep Box Elder County with a seat at the table and some say in how this project goes moving forward. It's frustrating because the message basically being sent here is, look, the state and the developer want this to happen. It's going to happen. And I'm saying this as someone who is, I'm not an anti-data center guy. I'm a nerd. These things have to be built somewhere. I'm not, I'm not fully on board with the whole, this is all about a Cold War with China thing. Sometimes I think that's dramatic rhetoric that's thrown out there to get people to do what the developers want. I don't think we're really there in a Cold War with China, but there is competition. I also don't think that it coming in second on, AI is going to hold anyone back, really. It's all going to move so quickly that for all intents and purposes, everybody's going to get there at the same time. So I don't buy into that scaremongering, but I do think it's kind of important that these are built. Well, maybe not important. I think that there is a lot of industry to be had around these being built. Let me put it that way. And jobs. And I think it's more a matter of, being careful about where and how. And so that frustrates me in this situation because I think the state board, META, and the project designers have been the opposite of that. And I'm not saying they haven't done their planning and done their research. It looks like they have. I'm saying they haven't been careful. It's so easy to avoid this type of public pushback. You have to be transparent. You bring the public in as early as possible. You don't do anything that could even be perceived as trying to pull a fast one. Well, META and Mr. O'Leary Digital did all three of those. Now, am I saying they deserve to be punished just because they're really bad at public relations? Maybe. No, I'm kidding. I'm just saying that they're their own worst enemies in this situation. And so public pushback is going to be what it is at this point. And the more anyone tries to, the governor gets it. The governor tried to stomp on it early. That blew up. He recalculated, came back out and said, all right. I'm not asking anybody to shut up at this point. I'm instead saying, let's get more people involved. Let's have public town hall meetings. Let's be very transparent, almost overly transparent. I mean, you should have been doing that in the first place. You can't expect people to be unmad now. I think the public will get over it as the project continues. But off to a really bad start and self-inflicted on the part of the state and the developer. That said, this referendum, what I saw, anecdotal, sure, but what I saw and heard Monday, May 4th, when I went over to cover the meeting, commissioners' meeting there, I don't agree with Mr. O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful. I don't think that those angry people were bussed in from out of Box Elder County. I think they were Box Elder residents for the most part that were there in chairs, wanting to learn more, but extremely skeptical and not at all happy with how this process had played out. I don't know that you can change their minds at this point. And again, self-inflicted. So I don't know why they do this. It never works. Ever. Anyway, we'll see what happens. Again, the county has 20 days on the application for the referendum. And again, I think people in Box Elder County, I hope you're keeping in mind, I'm not saying I know which is the case, but the county commissioners themselves have said that approving those initiatives on May 4th was the only way to keep the county with a seat at the table. If they would have said no, they would have moved ahead anyway and just cut the county out entirely. So I don't know if a referendum pulling those initiatives back means the same thing. I kind of think at this point the cat's out of the bag. The public's going to be involved. Everyone's paying attention to this. You can't just kind of quietly railroad it through at this point. So we'll see what happens. 20 days for the county to respond and acknowledge whether the application has been accepted or not, and whether these referenda questions will be on the ballot in November for Box Elder County residents to stop this whole thing. So check it out. I've linked to some of the Cache Valley Daily coverage on this on our Facebook page, and we'll be back with more of For the People right after this.
Get your cooling fixed, call Gary Riggs. Get your AC fixed, call Gary Riggs. If you're having cooling problems, we're here to get them fixed. Just pick up the phone and call Gary Riggs. 435-512-6633. We'll come to you. Our service fee is low, just $25. We repair all brands and have certified installers. Get your cooling fixed, call Gary Riggs. Get your AC fixed, call Gary Riggs.
This is Dr. Josh Red with Red River Health and Wellness. You already know us for helping people get real answers. Now, we're taking that care even further. We are expanding services to include advanced wellness therapies like ozone treatments, IV therapy, hormone optimization, and targeted peptides. These aren't trends, they're tools. Tools designed to support energy, recovery, immune health, hormone balance, and overall performance. Used strategically, medically guided, and tailored to you. If you ever felt like you're doing all the right things but still not feeling right, this is the next step. Because feeling better isn't about masking symptoms, It's about supporting the systems that run your body. Red River Health and Wellness, because your health deserves more than guesswork. Learn more or schedule a consultation at redriverhealthandwellness.com.
Call Red River Health and Wellness at 855-55-RIVER.
Call Red River today.
There are moments that shape a lifetime, from first plans to first steps, backyard throws to big wins. And for the biggest decisions, who you choose matters. Where life starts, home begins. Bank of Utah Home Loans. Find out how Bank of Utah can serve you by going to bankofutah.com. Bank of Utah is an equal housing lender, member FDIC, NMLS number 422914.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. We didn't even know it, but last fall, Utah State University's Utah Women in Leadership Project, driven by Dr. Susan Madsen, frequent guest here on the show, and really smart person all around, they did some pretty amazing research. I wish we would see this kind of surveying done for our political campaigns, but we'll take this. This is actually more important, I would argue, because it paints a picture that's going to help policymakers and the public understand better, how we craft our future as Utah grows at a really rapid pace. What they did is for about a month, October to November of 2025, last fall, the Utah Women in Leadership Project sent out 83 question surveys and managed to get responses from 5,200 Utahns, age 18 and older. That's pretty amazing stuff, honestly. I mean, just from a surveying perspective, that is amazing to get that many responses. What they were asking about basically is opportunities in Utah. This was part of so the state has tasked USU's Utah Women in Leadership Project with crafting this, what they're calling the Boulder Way Forward plan. And the goal on this is to take the surveying and research experience of Dr. Madsen and the crew at the Utah Women in Leadership Project and do some big picture asking around in the state to help state lawmakers, policymakers craft better policy because they're seeing, some changes in the workforce. They are seeing some data that suggests that there are some barriers to women getting an education still in Utah, things like that, and they want to tackle some of those challenges. So the survey data, the Institute says, served as a basis for this report. 7 top opportunities for Utah girls and women, a 2026 update, following up on the last time they published this report, which was 2024. So here's what they found. They found that respondents provided written comments at the end of the survey. It was an open-ended question, basically saying, what do you feel, what do you perceive as the most significant opportunities or lack thereof for Utah women and girls? And here's a bit of what they found from the CacheValleyDaily.com story, where you can read more. I'm skimming here. This is worth your time to read the whole thing. It's pretty amazing snapshot from the Institute. But so what they found is that the most cited opportunity for Utah women and girls was education and training. About 40% of respondents said that they felt the opportunities were great, but another 40% also said that there's a lot of work we can do supporting women pursuing formal education and training. And preferences in the survey were for increased access to financial assistance and low-cost or even free tuition for Utah women and girls. One respondent, Dr. Madsen, says, even wrote, education of girls and women is key. Through education, women have the opportunity to rethink and approach outdated roles and paradigms so that they can see themselves as powerful agents in their own lives. Work and employment options was second on the list as far as what respondents felt were the greatest opportunities here in Utah. Respondents did call for some changes, though. Dr. Madsen says respondents want to see More employers in Utah adopting family-friendly policies to better support parents, on-site daycare or reimbursement for daycare, or helping to line up daycare through your employer. These are things that there's been a lot of success with in other states. Unfortunately, it's not something that happens very much here in Utah. So respondents said they'd like to see more of that in the business community, and maybe a push from the state to incentivize businesses to do more of it. Our own Representative Jason Thompson has some good ideas on this front. Bills he passed just this last legislative session, in fact, to encourage, offering some sort of on-site care or reimbursement for care with the incentive of a state tax cut for the business if they do. Further on in the survey, this was interesting. Getting a little political. Respondents said that one of the things they think will increase opportunities for women and young girls here in Utah is getting more women involved in being leaders, elected office, running for office, getting elected to public office. Dr. Madsen highlighted that one that stood out to her was a participant who responded to this open-ended question about opportunity for women, that role models, women as role models, show girls what it's possible and encourage them to aim for big goals. And oftentimes when they look at our state legislature, our governor, all of these offices, they just don't see enough women. Right now, our Lieutenant Governor, Deidre Henderson, of course, is a woman, and I don't know if she has aspirations, but if she did run and for governor, which is common for a lieutenant governor to do that, but if she did run for governor and win, she would be the first governor in Utah who was a woman in a few decades. So, point taken. And also supporting women in leadership in public offices. And that is something that, both parties are, I think, trying to grapple with this a little bit. Current environment isn't right now, candidate recruiting for both political parties here in Utah is very difficult because the anger dial is dialed up to 11 and there's more people thinking, why would I expose myself to that? But the parties, I think, can do a lot to challenge that and recruit and get people involved. And that was actually cited by some of the respondents as well. They feel both political parties need to do more to encourage women to run for office. And it's a really cool, it's a unique survey. One that stood out to me, there's a portion of the survey where they're asking respondents about personal choices for women when it comes to, when, if you're going to become a mother, when, and how does that fit in with career pursuits, education pursuits, things like that. And respondents felt that there needs to be more acceptance of women making decisions to start a family a little later in life so they can get a college degree first, start a family at 22, 23 as opposed to 17, 18. That was one of the first responses that caught my eye. And additionally, saying that it would be far easier for women to have a career and a job and be a mom if there were more supportive options for these young families here in Utah. Increase in community resources was cited, education on everything from reproductive health to mental health and safe dating practices. So a lot of different opinions out there on what would improve the situation when it comes to women in Utah and their careers, their aspirations for politics and public office, or even if it's just, getting some sort of augmented training to improve your hourly wage at your current job. Respondents overwhelmingly said not enough opportunity or discussion of what we can do to help women in this arena. Check it out. It's an interesting report. Again, an update to 2024's report, 7 top opportunities for Utah girls and women, a 2026 update from Dr. Susan Madsen and team up at Utah State University's Utah Women in Leadership Project. Full story with a lot of details I skimmed over here at CashValleyDaily.com. Thanks to Dr. Madsen for that, and we'll be back with more of KVNU's For the People on the other side of these headlines with KVNU's Will Feel Right.
Thank you, Jason. A Utah judge has ruled that cameras will not be barred from the high-profile murder case of Tyler Robinson, the man accused of killing conservative activist Charlie Kirk. Now, defense attorneys for the 23-year-old Robinson had argued that live broadcast fuel biased news coverage and online vilification, potentially compromising his right to a fair trial. However, on Friday, State District Judge Tony Graff determined that the electronic media coverage is essential for public accountability and transparency. Now, Judge Graff said that live streaming allows as many people as are interested to observe the justice system at work. Now, Kirk, who is founder of Turning Point USA, was fatally shot in September while speaking at Utah Valley University. Prosecutors, who intend to seek the death penalty, say that they have DNA evidence and a written confession. Now, Robinson's preliminary hearing is scheduled to come up in July. Meanwhile, Layton police have identified a person of interest in the 40-year-old unsolved murder of 7-Eleven clerk Carla Maxwell, potentially upending a long-held theory about the case. Now, Maxwell, who was 20 at the time, was shot 6 times during her graveyard shift in April of 1986. Now, while the case went cold, ballistics recently confirmed that the revolver used to kill her was the same weapon used in 2 Salt Lake City homicides, the 1985 murder of Christine Gallegos and the 1986 murder of Lisa Strong. Now, last year, DNA evidence definitively linked Ricky Lee Stallworth Sr., a former Air Force airman who died in 2023, to the Gallegos murder. Now, because Stallworth lived in Layton and possessed the murder weapon 11 months before Maxwell's death, police now consider him to be a key figure in their investigation. Now, the identification of Stallworth complicates the 1996 conviction of Forrest Lee Whittle, who is currently serving time for the Strong murder. Now, while Whittle was tied to the third killing by witness testimony, there is no known link between him and Stallworth. Detectives are now working to determine if the weapon changed hands or if one man is responsible for all 3 slayings. Well, firefighters said they had to extricate a trapped individual inside a vehicle after a crash at a Tremonton intersection Friday afternoon. Now, the Tremonton Fire Department said that emergency crews responded to the collision at 1000 West and Main Street after receiving reports of an occupant unable to exit their vehicle. Now, arriving firefighters say they successfully removed the individual from the wreckage. Medical personnel evaluated the 3 people at the scene, and despite the impact, fire officials confirmed that all 3 individuals who were wearing seatbelts at the time of the crash were able to be released on site without any further medical care. And a small plane crashed on Monroe Mountain yesterday afternoon, injuring 2 occupants and igniting a small brush fire, according to the Paiute County Sheriff's Office. Now, emergency responders received reports of the downed aircraft just after 12. The crash site was located east of Marysville near Anderson Canyon. Now, officials confirmed the plane was occupied by a 59-year-old man and an 88-year-old man. Now, the 88-year-old victim was airlifted to Utah Valley Hospital for emergency treatment, while the 59-year-old was transported from the scene in a private vehicle. Now, the crash sparked a small wildfire on the mountain and was contained to approximately 1 acre by the Marysville Fire Department. Now, that crash remains under investigation. Well, we've had hot temperatures this afternoon with sunny, clear skies, and it looks like more of this heat wave is coming for tomorrow. Is overnight tonight. Temperatures will drop into the low 50s. Tomorrow could be the first time we see 90s for this year, as we'll get into the low 90s, possibly even breaking a record for tomorrow. Then high 80s for Wednesday. We'll get back into the 70s for Thursday and Friday. And weather this hour brought to you by Whole Tree Care. With over 30 years of experience, they can safely trim, shape, remove trees, make sure they aren't any damage to your home during this time of year. It's Whole Tree Care. Give them a call or check them out online at WholeTreeCare.com. And I'm Will Feelright with your KVNU local headlines.
ABC News, I'm Stephanie Officer. 17 Americans and 1 British national are now quarantined in the U.S. They arrived early this morning after being evacuated from the cruise ship hit with a hantavirus outbreak. 16 passengers are in Omaha, Nebraska, 2 are in Atlanta. ABC's Steve Osunsami.
Emory University Hospital is part of the Regional Emerging Special Pathogen Treatment Center network within the federally supported National Special pathogen system, which provides specialized capabilities for safely managing high-consequence infectious diseases.
Today marked 100 days since Nancy Guthrie disappeared. There is no law enforcement update. Her daughter, Today Show host Savannah Guthrie, posted a Mother's Day tribute Sunday. The Pima County Sheriff's Department said in a statement the investigation is active and ongoing as the FBI keeps reviewing evidence. The Pima County Sheriff's Department and the FBI encourage anyone with any relevant information to come forward. This is ABC
Mild winter?
News.
Oh, yeah. Your weeds noticed, too. Now they're popping up everywhere. Landscape beds, rock, even your driveway. Oh. Good news? Logan Extermination has you covered with their Killzall service. Starting at just $75 for 1,500 square feet or less, they'll take care of those unwanted weeds fast. Clean it up before it all takes over. Call Logan Extermination today at 435-752-8450. That's 435-752-8450. Online at loganextermination.net, a division of Anderson Seed and Garden.
This is Jordan with Primrose Home Care and Hospice, and I'm here with Barbara. Barbara, how did you become acquainted with Primrose?
I had been trying to get another company to come and help me, and I had waited about 2 weeks, and I needed a bath. My neighbor suggested that she would make a few phone calls, and that very afternoon, Mark Stokes was sitting in my front room, and he said, "What do you need?"
Primrose Home Care and Hospice. We're your home team.
The sun is finally out, the days are getting longer, and the open road is calling your name. And we have the perfect ride to help you get there. Roll into adventure today with a new lease from Murdoch GMC Chevrolet Cadillac, where your next summer journey begins. Lease a new 2026 GMC Canyon AT4 for only $576 per month for 36 months with $1,500 down. You've got to come and see us at Murdoch Chevrolet GMC Cadillac in Logan or online at murdochchevroletlogan.com. GMC, we are professional grade.
Call 888-391-6080 to receive dealer complete details. Offer expires 6/126.
The Ramsey Show.
So basically for the past year, I've been living with my girlfriend at her mom's house. I think we have enough to buy our first home.
No, don't do that.
No.
Never buy a house with someone you're not married to, under any circumstances. You're about to get yourself in a huge mess. Yeah, you complicate the breakup like nobody's business. Mm-hmm. You're going to buy a house with her, you better put a ring on it first, buddy.
You know, that's a lot of money that we got to spend on the wedding.
Dominic, it's legally dumb and it's financially stupid.
Dave Ramsey, evenings on KVNU 610 AM and 102.1 FM.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. Coming up, we've got the official summer lineup for the Lob Plaza in downtown Logan. They've gone above and beyond this year. Pretty exciting lineup with it really getting underway in the late part of summer in August. We'll talk about that news coming up before the end of the show. Before that, though, we had a chance to talk with Cache County Clerk Bryson Bem about the upcoming primaries, but also the general election, some recent changes in state law to the way we do elections and balloting and more here in Utah, and some confusion that's being created over a new state law, of course, that made a lot more of your information as a registered voter public, meaning someone can buy it and do whatever they want with it. There is some public pushback to that, and the county attorneys throughout the state have been overwhelmed with requests for special exemptions to this information being public. We had a chance to sit down and talk with Cache County Clerk Bryson Bem about all of that. A person that basically gets no days off ever anymore when you consider the number of special elections that have taken place over the last few years, the fact that we're headed into a primary and then straight into the general election. There used to be a time when I think county clerks could kind of sit back and work on some of the behind the scenes, personnel stuff and dusting the offices, but not anymore. Right, Bryson?
Yeah, unfortunately not. I really would like a vacation at some point, but it's okay. Luckily, I love my job. So
that is. Well, and we're happy because you do a great job of it. In fact, we're here to talk to you today about the timeline of this primary election. There's some important dates that voters need to know about in order to be able to vote in this. It's coming up faster than you think, end of June, and important decisions on the line as well, to say the least. But I do want to start with this, just praising the work you do there at the county clerk's office. Bryson Bam, Cache County Clerk, has created an online portal for something everyone is talking about these days. For those who don't know the background, the state legislature passed a law changing some of the rules on what voters' information is or is not public or private. And many people had previously requested through the Lieutenant Governor's office over the years to have their home address, things like that, listed as not public information. So it can't be purchased by political parties or nonprofit organizations to market to you and things like that. Well, the state law has now opened that up and done away with a lot of the guardrails, while at the same time expanding some of the people who can qualify for what is called an at-risk privacy request on your voter registration information. And Bryson, Cache County Clerk's Office, you've put that online to make it easy.
Yes, we have. There's been, a lot of, confusion about this new law, and so we decided, it'd be easier if, let's, put it on our website. So if any voters even have an inkling that they qualify for this, they can go in and apply there, and then we can, do our due diligence and see how we can help them.
Sure. As your office, I assume you've fielded a lot of requests over the last month or two?
Yeah, honestly, other than preparing for a primary election, this has been taken over our office a little bit. But no, everything. So far, everything's so good. We're running things smoothly. Processing these forms and helping educate the public exactly what this new law is.
Sure, and it's not your job, of course, to speak for the sponsors of the law. But just correct me if I'm wrong. My understanding is, according to the sponsors of the law themselves, this was a move made to put us in line with federal election requirements. That's the justification I'm hearing.
Yeah, you're correct. During the session when we had talks with the state legislature, it was mainly be in line with the NVRA, the National Voter Registration Act. So yeah, we're trying to stay compliant to what the state legislature says we need to stay compliant with, and we're ready to go.
Sure, that's. For listeners, again, they've made this easy. This is an online form you can fill out. There is, through the Lieutenant Governor's office, there's a traditional downloadable printable form you can fill out by hand if you don't want to do it online. But I'm looking at it right here through the Cache County Clerk's Office website, which you can find at cachecounty.gov. There is a link, and you simply fill out some information. And again, you must qualify for this at-risk designation, and there are some rules on that. It can't just be, I don't want my information to be made public. There has to be a reason. There has been massive public pushback on this. I'm sure lawmakers are hearing it. I wouldn't be surprised if they maybe make some tweaks and changes in upcoming session in 2027. But on this issue, before we move on, Bryson, have you had a chance to discuss the effects on your office with our state lawmakers here in Cache Valley?
Yeah, we have. I contacted a couple of our state legislatures about just kind of the workload that it gives us. They understand how, the situation is, and a lot of them still respect the bill and really liked it. But I wouldn't be surprised if something, gets tweaked here and there. The law itself is pretty vague. It gives the discretion to the county clerk. So, each county clerk's office is interpreting the law differently. But right now, no. I mean, right now we're doing good talking to our state legislatures, and they understand, just kind of the chaos it has caused our office, and even the voters for that matter.
Sure. And from what I'm hearing from Mr. Calley and others, the state's election office as well is trying to figure this one out as it goes, right?
Oh, yeah. It's, we're looking okay, do they need a wet signature or electronic signature? And, code doesn't specifically prohibit electronic signature, so that's why, we have that online form. Who, is eligible for what they call a public figure, because it's very vague, and we're trying to figure that out. So my office is kind of take a flexible approach, saying, if you took the time to fill out the form and you honestly feel like you have a threat, we usually accept those forms.
This is, again, easily accessible through the Cache County Clerk's website if you are concerned about this. And final question on this, what information are we talking about here? Because I notice people oftentimes have a misunderstanding there as well of what, someone's not going to be able to get your phone number off of this, right?
Correct. The only thing that we are allowed to give out is your name, your voter ID number, which is just a special ID number for elections offices to know basically where to send our ballot to, your mailing address, which elections you have voted in, not who you voted for, to be very specific. No one knows who you voted for. I think that's the biggest confusion right now is a lot of people think that they know who you voted for, but it's just what elections you voted in. And then previously it was going to be age, but now it's just going to be the range of your age.
Makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
All right, for listeners, if you want to see, the legislation that mandated this, I've linked that on our Facebook page. It's still available at le.utah.gov. Passed during the most recent legislative session. And again, with some of the public pushback and outcry over this, the negative effect it's had on clerks' offices, I wouldn't be surprised if they come back and tweak this one quite a bit in future legislative official meetings. But for the time being, this is how it works. Again, there's an online forum the Cache County Clerk's Office has created. He's too humble to say this. Not every clerk's office has done this, so thank them for it. But an online form where you can actually fill out the at-risk designation form to see if you qualify to have some of your voter registration info kept private. And Cache County Clerk Bryson Bam, again, appreciate your time today. Appreciate answering those questions. Moving on to the even more immediate here, we after the convention have entered into primary season. This will play out until the end of June, and there are quite a few deadlines that people need to know about. Your office has done a great job of getting word out on this, but what's the first one everyone should be paying attention to?
The first one right now is for all registered Republicans. Ballots will be dropping into their mailboxes the first week of June, so June 2nd that week.
Wow. That is not that far away.
No, not at all.
This is, and of course, the big race everyone's going to be paying attention to, the congressional race. I assume you expect maybe higher turnout in this one?
Yeah, we were expecting a little bit higher turnout, and honestly, the county attorney's race has gotten a lot of attention here locally.
Yeah.
So we're expecting a pretty good turnout for the primary.
And this, again, comes with also back to the legislature. I feel like I'm sometimes bad-mouthing them. I'm not. They've done these things. They've also changed the rules a bit on how we return those ballots.
Yes, we need to get the ballot returned. Has to be in my possession by 8 p.m. on election night. So it doesn't matter if your ballot was postmarked on election day, but if I haven't received it by 8 p.m., it won't be counted. Luckily, we have a good relationship with the post office. So if you go in and try to get that, postmark stamped at the post office, they're just going to deny you and tell you to go find a drop box.
Sure.
Yeah.
Which is honestly, I tell people use those anyway. It's a guaranteed way to make sure your ballot is there by 8 p.m. on election day, end of June. But it is also, you pass like 5 of them on your daily commute. These are at every city hall throughout the valley, right?
Yeah, every single city in town has at least one drop box. So even if you live in Cornish or Paradise, there's going to be a drop box near you.
Again, some election advice, deadlines, and more from the Cache County Clerk Bryson Bem. You can see all of these listed out as well at vote.utah.gov or cachecounty.gov/elections. And it is coming up sooner than you think. And, of course, as we discussed there with the county clerk, this is a Republican-only primary playing out in northern Utah here. There are other primaries in the state. Of course, the Democrats have one in the Salt Lake area for District 1 and that new map. But this is June 23rd here in northern Utah for the Republican primaries. Will play out both in the county attorney's race, as the clerk mentioned, and the congressional race. Speaking of that, by the way, we will be speaking with those congressional candidates again this week as they really ramp up their campaigns for this election. So regular primary election day, again, June 23rd, as the clerk told us. Your ballot must be in the possession of the clerk's office by 8 p.m. Polls close on June 23rd, so use those drop boxes. If you want to mail it, make sure you've done it by, say, Friday before Election Day, before the 23rd. If you haven't dropped your ballot in the mail by Friday, don't risk it. Drop it in a drop box over the weekend or Monday or even Tuesday up until 8 p.m. at least. Make sure your ballot is counted. Everything you need to know, again, at vote.utah.gov is see the Dropbox location map and more. It's basically every city hall in the valley. That is at cashcounty.gov/elections. Thanks again to Cache County Clerk Bryson Bem for his time and to our listeners for yours as well. Stick around. More of For the People right after this.
News Talk 610 AM, 102.1 FM, KVNU.
I'm Jay Sallin, founder of Allen Law. My focus has always been helping families protect what matters most through meaningful estate planning. I've now joined forces with attorney mediator Chris Guyman of the Conflict Resolution Center and seasoned litigator Sam Goebel to form the Allies Law Firm. Whether you're planning ahead, resolving marital conflict, or facing a courtroom battle, we bring strategy, strength, and experience together under one roof. Because when it matters most, you deserve the Allies Law Firm. Call the Allies Law Firm today. We plan, we fight, you win.
Hey Utah, have you heard? Nuclear energy might be coming to our state. Now, before your brain jumps straight into sci-fi movies, let's talk about what nuclear actually does. Nuclear technology helps power our nation's submarines, supports life-saving cancer treatments, and produces reliable electricity for millions of homes. That said, nuclear power also comes with a lot of misconceptions. Don't worry, we get it. Energy decisions matter, and Utahns deserve the facts. Learn more about nuclear and what it can mean for you. Visit energy.utah.gov/nuclear.
Hi, it's Olivia Munn with my shelter pets, Frankie and Chance, reminding you that when you adopt a shelter pet, you discover all the things that make them unique. Adopt pure love at theshelterpetproject.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council, the Humane Society of the United States, and Maddie's Fund.
Hi, this is Gordon Deal. Tuesday on This Morning, America's First News. Trump took Iowa by 13 percentage points to win his second term. So how has the Hawkeye state suddenly become a political battleground? Also, how artificial intelligence is distorting everything economic. Hear why one analyst says an AI investment bust wouldn't be the worst thing. And how the sandwich generation can care for everybody. Tuesday on This Morning, America's First News. From 4 to 6 on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102 FM.
Wrapping up today's show with a concert lineup for the Lob Plaza in downtown Logan announced today. Charlie Schill has all the details on where, when, and how, but short version of this, schedule of live local bands and a tribute act starting June 10th. June 12th. Starting June 12th with the Lonely Hearts Club Band, a Beatles tribute band. Then continuing on to July 10th when Haywire, a classic rock, bluesy, country kind of band, will take to the stage there at the Lob Plaza. Next up is August, a big month. Latino band Gentex on August 7th. Sky Olson and The Valley playing, that's kind of a rock blues poppy band, August 14th. Funky folk Americana band White Pine Lonesome on August 21st. And Local Grown with their brand of original soft rock and folk music on August 28th. So a lot going on at the Lob Plaza. This is just the music concert lineup as well. Russ Akina, the Parks and Rec Department, said they have a lot of big events planned, and stay tuned for it. Word from Mayor Mark Anderson, they'll have an official announcement on the big plan for July 4th coming next week, looking at doing something kind of similar to Freedom Fire, but instead of everyone having to get up to the stadium, spreading out to multiple locations, north, south, east, west, and within Logan City. Should be an interesting experiment, to say the least. Announcement on that officially planned for later this week, early next. We'll keep you posted. That's our show for today. Thank you for tuning in. Stick around. Dave Ramsey is next here on KVNU Logan.
News Talk KVNU, Logan, 610 AM and 102.1 FM. The power of information.